Earlier in the faculty meeting, you mentioned things that San Jose State and Dominguez Hills did to kind of cut down on their budgets. What sorts of similar things do you foresee HSU having to do?
Well, you heard somebody raise the issue. They had to make a very difficult decision here about their nursing program and reducing that program and the cost of that program. I know that administratively they've done a lot of things in their physical plant department and in their maintenance facilities. People are having to work harder, do more with less.
Could I also just jump in here quickly and say that one of the things that we're in the process of doing this year is centralizing our information technology sources, which has already saved us $300,000 and probably in the long run will save even more over time.
Those servers cost a lot of money when it comes to electricity, heating, cooling.
So I wanted to ask, at a time like this, and I know your time is valuable, but at a time like this when students are facing budget cuts and faculty is going crazy, well, not crazy, but they're going around doing stuff. Why not address students? Why not reassure them and speak at the grand ceremony and address them and kind of, settle their fears or let them know what kind of plans are in place?
Well, I am going to be meeting with the student leadership. I just met with some of the student leadership. I'm meeting later on today with some of the students. But one, I can't alleviate anybody's fears. Look at the times we're living in. Look at this country. Look at this state. So, we all have to face reality. So there are no guarantees, but I think I have to justify the decisions and the recommendations that I make. I try to do that by looking in the mirror and saying what is best for students. And sometimes, and I think somebody else heard me say this, sometimes taking medication that doesn't taste good, but you're going to get better, has to happen. And I think that's been a big problem in this state, in the sense that people think you can get something for nothing. People think you don't have to pay for services. People aren't willing to take some medicine to get some good results. So that's just the time that we're living in. But I want to provide as much access to students. I want students to stay in school. I want students to graduate. I know that if that's going to happen, they have to get the classes in order to do that. And I know if they're going to get the classes, they got to have the faculty members in the classes to do that. So the classes might get a little bit bigger, but there's somebody there serving them. We have about $1 billion less than we did in 1998, and we have more than 70,000 more students. I shared with our board this week in Washington, there's a financial study group called the Delta Project. And I think if you go online, delta.com or something like that. But they were talking about the 20 largest universities in the United States that have 15,000 or more students. 11 of 20 in the United States of the most efficient universities are CSUs. That's unbelievable.
May I ask really quick about the whole situation in San Diego? I know it's a board issue that passes whether this happens or not. But what's your personal opinion on it? What's your take on the raise, the $100,000 raise for the president?
First of all, I am really disappointed in the media. Okay? They don't ever want to get anything right. They want sensationalism.
Mhm.
All right, number one, it's $50,000 more from the state.
That's right.
Number two, the president that had been there had not had a raise for 5 years. Number three, the other $50,000 was from private sources that has to be raised every year. Nobody has written the truth about that. Then lastly, if you compare San Diego State with 25 peer institutions in the United States, it's still the lowest compensation for a president. One thing I know is if we're going to compete nationally, you have to pay to attract the best leadership. And one thing, as I said to you, in looking in the mirror, students, faculty, staff, and community deserve the very best leadership I can possibly find. And you're not going to get that for nothing. And it is baloney if you compare what a president does to what a Supreme Court justice does.
Chancellor Reed, I was wondering, you use this metaphor of taking medicine that we don't like.
Yeah.
While we appreciate taking that medicine, how can we avoid in the future taking that medicine? What can students do on a campus level? Because so many of us feel very frustrated and disempowered, and we hear a lot of statistics that are incorrect. How can we educate ourselves, and how can we take a step to help you help us?
I think students need to speak up in their community. I think students need to talk to their parents about contacting their local legislators and expressing to those legislators that they probably have the wrong priorities, funding the prison system better than the university system. I think the associated students, student government, in partnership with me, can go to Sacramento, go to Washington. Students have really helped me this summer in Washington. We're the largest Pell recipient in the United States. On the deficit baloney that was going on this summer, they had Pell on the list to cut. They did not cut any Pell Grants in the end. But students went with me to Washington. I took other presidents from the CSU with me. And Senator Harkin has now become a friend of the CSU's. Just this week in the Senate bill, he maintains the $5,550 for our students. That was a miracle. Now, we're not across the bridge because the Republicans in the Assembly or in the House in Washington still want to cut Pell. But, us being partners, both in Washington and in Sacramento, is also important, and speaking with one voice about our priorities. But, what happens at home is as important as anything I know. Getting the business communities in your community to speak up in behalf of higher education.
Speaking of business leaders in the community and other leaders in the community, are you going to be speaking with some of those leaders during your visit today?
Yes.
And who will you be speaking with?
I'm having lunch with them. These business leaders are a part of this foundation, one of the largest employers of both of our students and people here, I think, is Green Diamond, folks like that.
But isn't Green Diamond already in support of the CSU?
Yeah, but we can ask them to ask other businesses. That's how that works. Is for them to ask their friends, their colleagues, and where they are speaking out to talk about this institution in higher education.
Can we have one last question?
One of my lessons learned is if you get businesses to quiet down about taxes, that is helpful.